And putting our minds where our bodies are. And dropping into the present moment. Into the space. Opening up to the feeling of gratitude for those holding the space. Every one of us. And opening up to the feeling of generosity. Of being one, holding the space for others. Now recognizing, at least logically, that we are indeed fortunate. Fortunate to freely come in these doors and sit down and be among good people doing no harm. Letting the posture come into balance. Allowing the spine to be upright and energetic. Allowing the shoulders to drop and the arms and legs to be soft. Letting the face be soft too, and gentle. Awake, curious. Sometimes I imagine I'm sitting directly in front of the Buddha. On the receiving end of impeccable compassion and kindness and integrity and wisdom. And what does that feel like? And how do I receive it? And what's my face doing? In the midst of all that, generosity, love. Or just finding an anchor in the body where we can feel the breath, notice the breath, or notice even a phrase or a word, a mantra of kindness or gentleness. And then just returning, bringing the attention to that space and returning again and again throughout the meditation without judgment, without frustration. As soon as we notice we're awake, enjoy that moment and determine to stay awake, to stay engaged. As we head into silent meditation, allow a diligence to arise. And kindly and gently and diligently return to a state of being awake. I've been starting the reflection portion of the morning with a little bit of a reading from Ajahn Chah. This is out of a collection called Unshakable Peace. Ajahn Chah is in that painting in the back of the room and the head of our lineage. When we begin to wield the peace and serenity we've been developing in meditation, wisdom arises. This is what I call wisdom. This is vipassana. It's not something fabricated and construed. If we're wise, vipassana will develop naturally. We don't have to label what's happening. If there's only a little clarity of insight, we call this little vipassana. There's room for everyone. When clear seeing increases a bit, we call that moderate vipassana. If knowing is fully in accordance with the truth, we call that ultimate vipassana. Personally, I prefer the word wisdom or panya rather than vipassana. If we think we're going to sit down from time to time and practice vipassana meditation, we're going to have a very difficult time of it. Insight has to proceed from peace and tranquility. The entire process will happen naturally of its own accord. We can't force it. The Buddha taught that this process matures at its own rate. Having reached this level of practice, we allow it to develop according to our innate capabilities, spiritual aptitude, and the merit we've accumulated in the past. But we never stop putting effort into the practice. Whether the progress is swift or slow is out of our control. It's just like planting a tree. The tree knows how fast it should grow. If we want it to grow more quickly than it is, this is pure delusion. If we want it to grow more slowly, recognize this as delusion as well. If we do the work, the results will be forthcoming, just like planting a tree. For example, say we wanted to plant a chili bush. Our responsibility is to dig a hole, plant the seedling, water it, fertilize it, and protect it from insects. This is our job, our end of the bargain. This is where faith then comes in. Whether the chili plant grows or not is up to it. It's not our business. We can't go tugging on the plant, trying to stretch it and make it grow faster. That's not how nature works. Our responsibility is to water and fertilize it. Practicing Dhamma in the same way puts our hearts at ease. Yeah, it sounds super simple when you hear it that way from a master of meditation and Dhamma practice. And in theory, that is my philosophy too. Do the next right thing. Do the next useful thing. Sit in the morning on the cushion. Practice with the precepts. Say kind things. Repeat. And yet, we overcomplicate and overcomplicate and overcomplicate, which makes the whole practice slow and cumbersome and irritating, just like everything else. I wanted to put this shawl on. I got it as a gift a couple of months ago. I really love it. And it's really overcomplicated, my outfit. It's kind of like this, and it's halfway down over here, and then halfway up over here, and then I can't find the cord to my thing, and I feel a little bit like someone's put a rope around me. But I put a rope around myself. And that's, a nice little microcosm of a metaphor of how we overcomplicate things. We just put a rope around ourselves and then wonder why we can't move or get the job done or progress, forward. I didn't really need this on. It's not particularly cold up here. I just saw it and was like, oh yeah, I like that. I'm going to put that on. It's a great color for the camera. That was just a tiny part of it. But now I'm overcomplicated. And I'm wearing this rope that I didn't actually need. Not a big deal. I'm not going to suffer dramatically over this choice. But if we notice these small choices, it helps us notice the bigger ropes we wrap around ourselves and the way that we overcomplicate the practice. I've been back visiting my parents and some friends in Minnesota the last 2 weeks. And I take my family back. We go back every summer for a couple of weeks. And we stay in my childhood bedroom. And, and everything's different than it is here. There's no Portland Friends of the Dharma. There's nobody practicing around me. There's no cushion like this. There's no one else on the precepts. I practice with the precepts. That's my base practice. Not killing, not taking that which is not given, not cheating on my relationships, not lying, not drinking, doing drugs. And there's no one else on the precepts at home. And so it's, in ways, it's really challenging to be home. And there were a few challenging moments like that, like someone came over, a relative came over and just poisoned a bunch of bees, on by my parents' house while I was there. And, they said, look at how crazy those bees are going. And I said, well, yeah, that's weird. What happened? And they said, well, I poured a bunch of powder down their nest. And I was like, oh, okay. So they're dying. That's what's happening right now. And I just went back in the house and just kind of sat for a while in a chair because I didn't want to watch it. It was kind of painful. And I couldn't figure out why. Like, that was the day that the bees had to go, But it did, and it's hard to, even in my memory, to watch all these bees kind of like panicking, But they're my precepts. In Buddhism, in this framework, we say don't identify with too much, with anything, actually. Or, more gently, identify with what is good, with what is useful, with what is skillful, until we can let go of it all, And so, with the precepts, not identifying with them means I hold them. They're my precepts. But recognizing that this is my framework, that it's my integrity, that it's the way I live, and not lashing out at other people for living a different way. So I sort of, made it clear by leaving that I didn't think that was a good idea. But I just sat it out. I sat out the feeling. I'm still sitting out the feeling. Recognizing it was difficult, that my supports aren't the same at home as they are here. So things like that, can be really challenging when we're away from our supports and trying to be true to our practice. But the rope, around me in that situation was the anger and irritation that came up toward this other person. That was what was overcomplicating the situation for me. So I had to let that go. That would have overcomplicated the situation. To act on it, to make a problem for them, make a problem for myself, make a problem for my parents. So I had to let that rope go. And, just other things like that came up. That's a good, strong example, though. But at the same time, you know, I did a lot of things that I didn't care about or care for. But those things weren't a problem at all. Like, you know, I rode in a 1960 Cadillac and a 1948 Plymouth, and I went to a drive-in burger place and looked at all the old cars, and none of that is anything I would do, you know, like this week here. I don't care about it, but it doesn't break my precepts. Somebody I love cares about it, and so just going along, enjoying the moment, enjoying the people, being open to the experiences, not worrying about getting the experiences that I prefer. So letting go of preferences around the content of the experiences made the trip actually very enjoyable, even though I wasn't doing things that I would normally do on vacation. It's not a vacation, guys. You know? It's a visiting loved ones. When has that ever been a vacation? But they are loved ones, and I'm their loved one. And we don't see eye to eye on everything, but every trip, every summer, every trip has a different kind of theme, which is interesting. It's in retrospect. You know, this was a lot about going to the cities, or this was a lot about four-wheeling in the country, or this was a lot about the fairs, whatever it is, you know. And this theme, this year, in retrospect, was harmony. There was a lot of harmony in between the loved ones. Wasn't all harmonious, but there was more harmony this trip than ever in the past. Not sure why. Some circumstance, some choices, some maturing on everybody's part. So it's interesting to look back on an experience that even had hiccups and frustrations and weird stuff, and I think, yeah, okay, the theme this year was harmony. What's that about? How did that happen? And I think, you know, to a great degree, it was all of us choosing not to, do you see this thing? Choosing not to overcomplicate the situation, not to even pick up the rope and tie it. You know, there's, when we overcomplicate something, it's in, you know, there's a whole process that we can see from beginning to end, can't we? Sort of, and then we can let go at any point. So picking up the rope, we can let it go. You know, taking it in the other hand, we can let it go. Tying it around, oh, then we can let it go. Squeezing it, then we can let it go. Like, at what point are we letting go of the complication of the rope? And I think that for the most part, pick up a complication and let it go pretty quickly. And with 6 of us doing that and encouraging each other to do that, harmony became the theme. And, you know, the parts, the pieces and parts of harmony were things like what made up the harmony, in addition to letting go, were gratitude, just a lot of giving, a lot of receiving. So there was a lot of gratitude going around. A lot of generosity was going around. A lot of kindness and love. A a lot of joy and gentleness. Good boundaries. I think that might be like, if letting go is 80% of harmony, then good boundaries is the next 19%, and then the rest. But good boundaries, leaving a room when necessary, speaking up when necessary, saying no when necessary, saying yes when necessary. When we, everything we do here, now I'm going to digress, but everything we do here, is dana, is giving, is generosity, is volunteering. Everything that happens here happens because of volunteers. And every time someone tries to volunteer for something big or something long-term, I say, are you sure? Is that what you really want? Would you like a trial period? Oops, I'm giving you a trial period. Well, hang on. And then I get sad because there are holes everywhere. But boundaries are such a huge part of harmony, because then people are giving what they really want to give and what they really can give and what they feel good about giving. And they're not taking more resources from others or from themselves than they can afford. So I noticed a lot of with my family, and there's preteens and teenagers and Gen Xers and boomers and it was like a big generational soup, all in this really small home for 2 weeks. And the boundaries turned out to be really important. Going to bed on time, getting up, in time to do something together, getting enough sleep, eating okay enough. But I was thinking of Ajahn Chah, he would say, eat little, sleep little, talk little. That's what he told us monks all the time. Eat little, sleep little, talk little. And I think of this in my life. I was not eating little. I was sleeping. I was a mess, talking constantly, chit-chatting. And so, I sat down for a few meditations while I was on vacation this time, and wouldn't you know, I'd sit down and my brain would be so busy, or I would be tired, or I would be kind of just checked out or thinking a lot. Well, I was eating morning to night, talking morning to night, sleeping, a mess, jet lag a little bit. And if you continue your practice, even when the conditions are bad, then you get to see how you might think about improving your conditions, or how conditions can make a difference. And then work with that. Not that we have to make our conditions perfect all the time, but just noticing the ingredients. Our ingredients can have a huge effect, do have a huge effect on our practice, on our meditation, on our mind state, on our little vipassana, moderate vipassana, ultimate vipassana. So just learning. I always try to take away something. So I go back every year, so there's always an opportunity to see what's different, how things have changed, what can I take away from it, what is the lesson here. And of course I'm spending time with my family of origin, so there's a tendency to think, oh, I've seen it all. I've learned it all. I got it. I know what mess I picked up, what good stuff I picked up. I know what the work is. But I always see something new or something that I really would like to spend more time working on. And, this time it was something I'd seen before, but the humor in my family in the Midwest is very dry, and it can be very, sarcastic, kind of. Not very sincere, not very empathetic sometimes. Like if somebody sneezes, even though everyone around you is Catholic, nobody says bless you. It's like, God bless America, or they heard that in Texas, or I mean, what is that? But it's kind of like I was raised that if something clever pops into your mind, just get it out as soon as possible. Entertain the room. And that's something I've been working on for a few years. That's basically this whole practice as a layperson, is like to have the choice about what goes from here to here. It takes a long time. So just seeing that, and noticing it and making it my theme of work this month, this last week, couple weeks. Oh, can I make some more time between what pops into my head and what pops out of my mouth? Continue that work. You be the judge. But anyway, that's probably good. I just wanted to appreciate being back and being with friends, and talk about some of the lessons that I learned over the last couple of weeks. So I'll leave it there. And I'm wondering if anybody has questions or comments or experiences. If anyone has family or friends. We have a few minutes. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify, by the not over-complicating things, does that mean choosing to not talk about it and just sort of it be a thing that you're personally dealing with, and that's it?
Well, I think so that depends on the situation. Sometimes we need to speak up and say something that's really important. But if we don't need to speak up and say something, but we can feel this internal concern, then we can deal with it internally. Overcomplicating is when we add our ego to the whole thing. Well, you got to do it differently because I learned it differently and I know how to do it and it's better my way, so that's that's the overcomplicating part. But the speaking up is important when there's someone at risk, when someone's being hurt, when something needs to change. But when nothing can change and we need to just look at our own part, our own process, then we can do it internally. How do you see?
I was reflecting on my family group. You just age out of that.
Mm.
As annoying as they are,
Mm.
they'll be gone. The annoying parts won't be there anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So finding harmony now is good. Margaret.
Can you talk about end of life for pets?
Can I talk about it? Yes. I can talk about my experience. Yeah. During COVID, one of my pets was dying, and it was COVID. Well, my singular pet was dying. Such a great cat. And it was during COVID, so we couldn't go into the vet. If we went to the vet, we had to sit in the car, and they had to come get the cat, whatever. And he was dying of kidney failure, I think, which is fairly common for cats. And with the precepts, I my training would be to not kill him, and to not ask someone else to kill him. So we hung with him for a while, did what we could, helped him out, tried to make him comfortable. And then my husband was going to have him put down. He's not on the precepts. And but then we had a conversation about the precepts, and I just told him, that for me it was taking on a certain kind of karma that the Buddha advised against. And after having that conversation then, and also the fact that it was COVID and that we would have had to just hand him over in a box, in the parking lot to the vet. Between those two things, we just decided to keep him home. And he died. He died at home. And it was really excruciating. It just horribly difficult. And it's hard for me to even say if I could do it the same way again, or if I would do it the same way again. We were all home, my whole family, the little kids and everybody, we were all there together with him for days as this was happening, weeks. But ultimately, I didn't, kill him or ask that he be killed, and didn't take on that particular karma. And it was hard. So, do you have a follow-up?
What was hard about it?
Oh, just the pain, just watching him be in pain, just watching him wither, watching his body change, watching him be with the kids, having to just kind of bearing with that which felt unbearable. That's what was hard, just the feeling of it. Not anything we did was hard. But being with it without trying to stop it or change it, and letting nature take its course, that was hard. And losing a beloved creature as well. I mean, he was awesome. So, yeah. But it's my framework, my choice. Yes.
No, it's painful, and I appreciate you sharing it. I wonder if you'd be able to talk about your process, how you did that skillfully throughout that. What techniques did you bring to mind to help you?
Yeah. Well, it was a few years ago, so I don't remember everything. But I think what I remember is leaning in to it. Like, I don't want to talk for too long, so we can wrap, but I I slept on the floor with him, and spent a lot of time drawing very close instead of looking the other direction or trying to ignore it or getting space. We just leaned in. And I think about Ajahn Sumedho says, if you want to understand suffering, you have to stand under it. So that to me has been very helpful over the years, this idea that sometimes putting down the umbrella and just letting the rain fall. And then we know what water feels like. Maybe it's not pleasant, but it's real. It's nature. And so for me, it was this kind of leaning in, drawing close, paying attention, being quiet, rather than pushing any of it away.